They were some of the single most haunting images to come out of the January 6th Select Committee's public televised hearings. Then Vice President Mike Pence being evacuated as violent extremists stormed the Capitol. Well, outside the Capitol, let's not forget, violent extremists were chanting not just to kill him, but how to kill him. Hang Mike Pence. They had erected a makeshift gallows. Now, as part of the backroom deal, now Speaker McCarthy cut with fringe elements of his party in order to get his little hands on the gavel. All of this surveillance footage from that fateful day will be released, thousands of hours of it. What they hope to achieve by releasing something that they said never happened is anybody's guess, since what we have seen of the surveillance footage is quite damning, especially for Mr. Hawley. But it underscores that we still do not really know the contours of the deal with the devil that McCarthy made in order to win the speakership. Joining us now, former Democratic Congresswoman Elaine Luria of Virginia. She served on the January 6th Select Committee. Thank you for being with us. This seemed like something that would be good for the country, good for people who want to understand January 6th, not good for the part of the caucus that said it was a normal tourist visit. Why do you think Matt Gaetz wants more surveillance footage out?
Well, Nicole, this is actually quite baffling for a couple of reasons. First of all, more footage of the violence, of the desecration of the Capitol, of attacks on police officers, of the heinous behavior that was going on throughout the day on January 6th. I don't see how Matt Gaetz can think that that is beneficial, to try to prove his point, or Clyde or some of the folks who said this is just a tourist visit. Clearly it wasn't. The more footage that's available to show that, the harder it is for them to make that claim. It hasn't stopped them nonetheless. And second, they're the same people who've said we hadn't done enough to ensure security within the Capitol. Well, if you release all of the security tapes of the Capitol showing every evacuation route, every corridor, every bit of information that would lay out a roadmap for someone who wants to come try to do something like this again, that is really dangerous for the future security of the Capitol. And, that is the reason that, although a large portion of these have been released in different contexts, having them in their entirety would be very dangerous precedent for the security of the Capitol or any other federal or protected building.
Do you think he wants to show the altercation with Ashley Babbitt? I mean, she's a martyr on the far right and in Moscow. I mean, what do you think he wants to do?
Well, on the aspect of that, and I've thought about this a lot, the incredible amount of restraint that was used by those officers throughout the Capitol, whether they be Capitol Police, Metropolitan Police, responding that day and just literally getting brutally attacked themselves. Here you have someone attempting to breach a barrier, through a broken window, very close to where leadership of the House, members, staff are all evacuating. And the fact that it's a tragic loss of life. And again, I say that, the folks who were summoned by Trump to come and believed in this cause and were misled, it's very unfortunate that someone lost their life under those circumstances, believing lies that they were fed. But I think that it would, again, prove that in this case, a reasonable use of force was used by law enforcement when a very dangerous situation was ongoing and someone failed to follow their instructions. And so it really doesn't make any sense to me, other than, again, any opportunity that Matt Gaetz has to wrap McCarthy around his finger and get concessions from him, whatever that is, it seems that he's gone that route, whether they're nonsensical or not. And if you think about it further, how many things can Matt Gaetz go out there and claim now that he requested from McCarthy? He might have a whole list in his back pocket that he never had a conversation about, but how's McCarthy going to come back and deny them at this point? Like this idea that there's a backroom list that no one's seen, it puts McCarthy in a box with regards to these demands that may have been made, may not have been agreed to. Who knows?
Yeah, it's so interesting. He put him in a box, but then McCarthy climbed in and was like, take me in, guys. Here I go. I mean, what do you, it's been 1 week and we've got, Santos is like a character from a bad Netflix series, right? He's lied about everything except his name so far. You've got this Jordan-run committee that's going to investigate law enforcement and the intelligence community. You expressed some concern last week that they could investigate all the members that served on the House January 6th Select Committee. I mean, what do you make? We're 1 week in. Where are we heading?
Well, I think people are pretty concerned, the public watching this. I mean, they want their representatives in Washington to take care of important things. All of these people ran on this platform about cutting gas prices and, inflation and their views, which I don't share, on a woman's right to choose and all of these different things. But they're not up there working on that. They're creating a clown show, essentially. They're defending someone who has clearly used false pretenses to be elected to office. And it really doesn't appear that they are focused on accomplishing anything. I think I said this last week. I think it's a Congress of grievances rather than governing, and they've already proven that through their first week.
I'm just mulling your extraordinary answer about the footage and revealing the pathways and the tunnels and the evacuation routes. I mean, do you think that, I guess what I want to ask is, if you know the universe, do you know the universe of surveillance footage that exists? And was that the reason why any of it was withheld in terms of what the committee showed the public and didn't?
Well, I mean, there's hundreds of cameras, thousands of hours cumulatively of footage. I mean, the committee, used the footage to show particular moments in time that displayed, the activities that were going on throughout that day. There was absolutely no way or real purpose of which we would have broadcast on live TV thousands of hours of right. footage. And then when you take it, when you take a small portion of it, which displays the activities happening that day, I don't think that presents a security threat. Like, this is a right. corridor in the House of Representatives. But if you watch 14 hours of that and then see, for example, Senator Schumer and Speaker Pelosi and, perhaps Vice President Pence evacuating through this corridor, then you move to the next corridor and you have all this you can piece together and map out exactly how these evacuation routes were used to keep people safe in the Capitol. I mean, I think that gives away a large amount of information that's required for Capitol security.
There was a story this week in the Washington Post that a pretty wide-sweeping subpoena went out for a lot of the conduct that was scrutinized by the Select Committee and the work that you did, specifically around the fake electors. What is your sort of state of mind about the pace and the specificity of the federal criminal investigation being run by the special counsel into the president around January 6th?
Well, I'm pleased to see each time that there's reporting that they appear to be digging deeper, talking to people who were close to both the former president and his allies, as well as those who may have had contact or participation in this scheme in various states. So, I think that there was a little frustration on our part as the committee early on. Was DOJ doing anything? Of course, as a congressional committee, I mean, our role was different than the Department of Justice. But now that we have completed our work, presented a comprehensive story of January 6th to the public and passed that information on to the Department of Justice, I do feel that they are continuing to act and move forward with that as a framework. I mean, they didn't need us to conduct an investigation. They didn't need us to issue, criminal charges, but we made recommendations about, the referrals of what we gleaned from our information. They have subpoena power and a way to compel witnesses beyond what a congressional committee can do. And therefore, I from all observation, I think that they are doing that in order to obtain even more in-depth information and waiting to see the outcome of that.